Over half of COVID-19 deaths are accounted for by African American and Hispanic people. Race should not be a contributing factor that increases your rate of getting COVID-19. According to the Racial, Economic, and Health Inequality and COVID-19 Infection in the United States article, since COVID-19 started, African Americans have been affected at a rate of 1,981 cases per million, with the number of deaths reaching 211 deaths per million, while the number of whites, as defined in the reports, are infected at a rate of 658 cases per million, with the deaths reaching 76 deaths per million. Non white students make up 22% of Mizzou's student demographics. So the people that are affected are you, me, friends, and our fellow classmates, meaning it affects all of us in one way or another. African Americans and lower socioeconomic groups are affected with COVID-19 at a disproportionate rate compared to other ethnic and economic groups. And the two main reasons for this gap, research has found, are the pre COVID-19 economic social conditions in these communities and the distrust of the government and healthcare system in African American households. I am a biochemistry student that has been researching COVID-19 and the vaccine, and through my research, I have branched out to look at the societal implications of the virus. By researching the societal implications, I have noticed that the racial and socioeconomic inequality in the African American community as it relates to COVID-19, which has sparked my interest to look deeper. Being that I am myself an African American female, this directly involves me. This is not an abstract concept to me, but my actual life. In order to understand these societal implications, we must first understand what the coronavirus is and how it affects the body and the mRNA vaccine. According to the Insight into SARS-CoV genome structure, evolution, pathogenesis, and therapies COVID-19 article, it is caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. COVID-19 primarily attacks the lungs. However, it can also cause your body to produce an overactive immune response, which can lead to an increased inflammation throughout the body, causing severe illness and even death. Some people have been having long term effects of the virus even months after it has left the system. Now we will watch a short video of what SARS CoV virus is. This is the internal structure of the virus. In order to combat the virus, scientists have developed an mRNA vaccine. mRNA can most easily be described as an instruction for the cell on how to make a piece of the spike protein that is unique to SARS CoV 2. After the spike protein is made, the cell breaks down the mRNA strand and disposes of them using enzymes in the cell. Once displayed on the cell's surface, the antigen causes the immune system to begin producing antibodies and activating T cells to fight off what it thinks is an infection, which means the immune system is primed to protect against future infection. Now we will watch a video describing how the mRNA vaccine actually works in an animation.
Researchers have found that the COVID-19 virus begins the process of creating copies by attaching its spikes to a host cell. Those spikes offer a target for vaccines. With the right preparations, our immune system can utilize this vulnerability. A vaccine is used to arm our immune system. It contains messenger RNA, which can direct cells to make specific proteins. The messenger RNA tells our cells to produce COVID spikes. These harmless spikes give our immune system the information needed to quickly detect a coronavirus infection and produce the appropriate antibodies. The new antibodies respond once COVID has entered the body. They attach themselves to the spikes on the COVID virus, rendering the spikes useless, protecting our cells and keeping the virus from reproducing. mRNA vaccines have been studied rigorously and are a safe and effective way to defend ourselves against COVID-19 infections. Researchers have found that the COVID-19
Now, with the basic knowledge of the virus, we can delve into the pre-COVID-19 social and economic conditions that contribute to the unequal distribution of COVID-19 infection and deaths in the African American and lower socioeconomic communities. In the United States, 25.1% of native-born Blacks are currently living in poverty compared to 9.1% of native-born whites. So when we are referring to lower socioeconomic communities, we are referring to communities made up majority of Black Americans. The racial, economic, and health inequality and COVID-19 infection in the United States article by Abidi has found that the majority of people in lower socioeconomic communities have lower levels of income and wealth, higher unemployment, and greater levels of food and housing insecurities, which leaves Black families with fewer buffers to absorb economic shocks and contribute to the Black households' vulnerability to the COVID-19 economic crisis and preventing them from getting tested and treated. Other contributing factors found by the CDC are that minorities are more likely to be uninsured than non-Hispanic whites, lack of transportation, childcare, ability to take off work, cultural differences between patients and providers, and historical and current discrimination in the healthcare system. Now that we understand the economic and social factors, we can tackle the distrust of the government and the healthcare system in the African American household that contributes to the high infection and mortality rates as it relates to COVID-19. Distrust of America's healthcare system has been a long-standing battle that African Americans have been facing for a while. The distrust has been fueled by events like the Tuskegee syphilis study, where 600 Black men were told that they were being treated for having bad blood, when in actuality, the scientists did not properly inform them of the purpose of the study, and even after a reliable drug was found in 1947 to treat syphilis, the men in the study never received the proper treatment, which is why it was later found to be an extremely unethical experiment. The distrust is not only rooted in the healthcare system. The constant battle with racial profiling and racial tension in our legal system and with law enforcement have contributed to the overall distrust. Racial tension is very high right now with several trials going on that involve police killing unarmed Black men. It's very hard to trust a system that seems set out to harm you based on the color of your skin. Even with the fear of the government, the isolation that African Americans feel in society also builds up that distrust. Even myself, being the only African American female in my biochemistry class, is very it's very easy to feel isolated. As other students group up to study, being the only one excluded is rough. I'm sure I'm not the only Black person on campus that feels this way, and even if it is unintentional. With the build-up distrust of the American healthcare system, it explains why there is a fear in the African American community to get tested and especially to take the vaccine. In my family alone, majority of my cousins, uncles, aunties are 100% against the vaccine and have no plans on getting it anytime soon. Even after I've explained how the vaccine works, they have comments such as they probably are injecting the Black people with something different. Although some of these thoughts are very far-fetched, there is still basis for valid concern based on past history and mistreatment. Based on the economic and social and the distrust in the American healthcare system by African Americans, it explains why there is an unequal distribution of COVID-19 cases and deaths in the Black community. In this speech, we have tackled what COVID-19 and the vaccine are, along with the two contributing factors that can conclude the COVID-19 pandemic is also contributing to the racial pandemic in our country today.